So what we've been doing, we did last time around at the Affiliate Summit in New York, is we kind of end the whole Affiliate Summit by having a bunch of people who have podcasts on the Geekcast.fm network come up here and answer some questions that you guys might have, but also talk about some of the hot topics. We've got a variety of people who focus on some different areas. So I'm going to sort of give you, instead of their whole background, kind of their podcasting background here. So this is Vinny O'Hare and Deb Carney, who's known as Loxley, and these guys do a whole bunch of different podcasts. We've got they have a whole ABC series of podcasts. There's ABC affiliates. They've got one for blogging. They've got one for merchants. So they focus on a whole bunch of different issues coming from all different sides of the equation. And then right here we've got Daniel Clark, and he does Geek Dads Weekly, which used to be Geek Dads at Home, and they've been doing that one for quite a while. There's a cast of characters that Daniel works with, and they talk about the issues of being a geek dad. And then on the end, we have Jason Rubacki, who is new to the Geekcast.fm family, and he's got a new podcast that is called Both Sides of the Tracks, and he is he's sort of the affiliate manager component of it, and he shares the microphone or the podcasting booth with Eric Nagel, and Eric is the affiliate. So we're going to start off by just talking about a few different topics, and not necessarily specific to podcasting, more about the industry in general. But if you have any specific podcast questions afterwards, we'd be happy to answer when we start opening it up for questions. So I think what I'd like to ask this group, since it's a really diverse group, is sort of if there are things that are coming up in the next 12 months or so that you feel excited about, whether it's a trend or a hot issue or just something that, is really sort of pushing your buttons and making you excited. And any one of you can jump in at any time and start.
Wow. Well, I guess Mama will have to lead the pack.
For a bunch of podcasters, we're surprisingly quiet right now.
Yeah. Well, because we aren't in control of the record button and the start over. But anyway, one of the trends that I've seen is that there's a lot more new people coming into the space that are very interested in learning how to do things, but because the more established people, like we've been doing it for so long, it's kind of the premise behind the ABCs, but the reason that we're developing it is because there's all these people calling us saying, I have a blog and I'd love to make money with it, but I don't know how. And also from the Affiliate Summit in New York City, I saw a distinct difference in the people who were coming to us that want to be merchants and sell things online. And they may or may not have a shopping cart already, but they really need to know how to sell things. So that it's like there's a whole new groundswell of entrepreneurs that are discovering the affiliate space and want to get involved in the industry.
Now, what about the rest of you? Daniel, do you see any specific trends or things that are really interesting to you?
Well, it's already started, it's already started trending a little bit, but I think video is really exciting me personally. We don't do any video yet ourselves on our show, but that will be something that we will be doing at some point this year. So it's gotten to the point now where it's easy to integrate video into your marketing efforts. It's easy to produce. It's getting easier and easier to edit and to get it posted. So I don't see any reason why anyone couldn't do video as part of their marketing efforts.
Because I'm going with the face made for podcasting, not for video.
I'd have to agree with Daniel on that. I think with the boom of HD video cameras, you're going to see a lot more new people to the industry doing video podcasting.
I mean, you can get an HD video camera. The flip is going for like under $200 now, I think, something like that. I mean, it's dirt cheap.
And we got a really good video camera, a really good real video camera for like $500 that does stills and HD video and all kinds of really cool
Absolutely.
things.
Yeah.
Jason, any plans to integrate video for what you guys are doing? I mean, is that something you see as a trend?
I don't know. We're on episode 2, so We got
But
a,
in
we got
the
a little ways
industry
to go.
itself.
I need to remember to bring my headphones first. And once I can remember to do that every week, we'll be
Yep.
good. So.
The one time when Jason was guesting on our show, he forgot his headphones. And in his first episode on his show, he forgot his headphones.
Yeah, rule number 1, bring your
Rule
headphones.
number one.
So one of the things that it seems like is a really big deal is mobile, and sort of how do you think the affiliates are going to play in the mobile space? I mean, it seems like it's been building and building, and I'm not sure this is the year. You know, that 2010 is the year of mobile, but if it isn't this year, it's going to be next year, I think.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
I mean, what kind of momentum are you guys seeing, and how do you think affiliates can leverage mobile?
Go ahead.
Well, I don't like 18, okay, I've never gotten an iPhone and I've never gotten into the whole iPhone thing, but when the Droids came out for Verizon, I got one, and when you look at your websites on a smartphone, it gives you a new vision as to how you need to develop your site. And you need to make sure that it's opened your eyes. Like, you go to certain websites and you think they're a good site, and then it's just a mess. So I think that it's going to take another year before before affiliates and networks and things are going to be able to take advantage of that. This is going to be the year to learn how to build your website for mobile, is what I think.
I think I agree totally with that. And it's probably not anything that anyone here has not heard before, because we've been talking about mobile, I think, in the industry for a few years now. But if you haven't examined your website on an iPhone or a Droid,
Or a netbook.
or even a netbook, exactly, you really need to get on that, because it's blowing up. There's no stopping mobile.
Well, I was going to say, I think one of the big issues with mobile is that all the folks in this room are really great marketers, but they're going to have to learn how to sort of deal in a different space where
They're gonna
you're
have to be able to develop
sensitive you're sensitive to not invading the consumer's space, and sort of doing your marketing a little more smartly, because a phone is a very personal thing. And while I may not object to messages coming from affiliates, you know, pushing all kinds of stuff to me on email, getting it on my phone is a totally different story.
Well, speaking of mobile, I just got a text that Daniel here, he just won the grand prize from Buy.at.
What is it, the big box of Ghirardelli chocolate?
I don't know.
I never win anything, so I don't know.
Well,
Cool.
wait, that reminds me, I should make a little announcement that, speaking of prizes, that they're not really prizes, but they're wonderful things that Sean and Missy did this great book called Internet Marketing from the Real Experts. And if you want another copy, there's a bunch over here for free, and we would love for you to take them. It's a great read. There's lots of great information in here, so come and grab one at the end if you'd like.
And this one here is actually in the book. So. I'm not in the book.
Okay.
You in the book?
No,
How many people out there are in the book? Come on, raise
There's
your
a couple.
hands. I see you out
Yeah.
there. Okay.
About 10.
that's, So,
Anyway,
a good representation.
yeah.
Okay, so we can't not talk about social marketing,
Right.
social media marketing. So what are some of the trends that you see in social media marketing for affiliates or for merchants? Like, you know, what's happening there? We'll start with you.
Social media is dead. I just figured somebody needed to say that.
All right.
Social, I think we're in the middle of what I think is going to be the final. Well, it's always going to evolve, but you know, with Twitter and Facebook, and Twitter going directly to Facebook, it's going to be, I don't know, the year of spam.
It's the year of your social
Year
media.
of
It's all coming
social media
together.
evolution.
Yeah, all of your social media is tying together. So
It's going to
that-
become life.
Yeah. Didn't Peter Shankman say something
Yeah,
like
something
that?
like that.
Yeah.
But if I got it stuck in my head.
Sure.
Yep, he said that it's not social media, it's, you know, it's life.
I'll have to give him $10 for using that.
So who should everybody be listening to? Because we've all heard the stories about how everybody is proclaiming them or self-proclaiming themselves as a
If someone
social
says
media
they're
guru.
a social media
Guru or expert.
run away, because there's no such thing. If you
No.
have to tell somebody you're an expert in social media, you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
You know, you can tell just by watching the people that the other people are following, and if you're engaging in conversation and getting your message out to people in the way they want to get your message, then you will become a social media expert.
You know, we've always seen things that people try to write ebooks or set up web services and things like that, and to charge you for information that you can get for free elsewhere with just 5 minutes of searching. And the social media guru thing has just, frankly, it has disgusted me, because that's one of those things where really, if you've got 5 minutes to spend on Google and searching around Twitter and Facebook, you can learn how to use these tools. You don't need to pay anyone to do it. So I hope, I want to see 2010 be the year where we see those go away. I'm not hopeful. Yeah, I'm not hopeful, but I'm hoping. I'm crossing my fingers.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be like, it'll become so normal that it'll be ridiculous for me to say I'm the expert in, making toast.
Right.
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly. It's going to
Yeah.
be more integrated into our lives. And, the smart marketers will realize that they need to have a social media presence for their company and a social media presence for themselves. And they can automate and integrate between the two things, and don't just be selling. And to take another line from Peter's presentation, don't let any of your Twitters start with I. You're not talking to yourself, or you're not, bragging about yourself, but talk about people and talk about what's going on and engage in a conversation with the people in your social media network.
I think the one thing too is that you need to remember that your marketing efforts with social media are not all that different from your marketing efforts elsewhere. Don't treat your social media efforts like it's, if you don't, let's put it this way.
It's not the do-all, end-all.
Right, put it this way. If you don't spam people on an email list, don't spam people on Twitter. Same concept.
And if you do, don't spam on Twitter.
Yeah, don't spam on Twitter to begin with.
Daniel's email address is Dan.
I just think there needs to be a fair mix between, if you're going to use
Right.
Twitter and Facebook and you're going to use it for affiliate marketing too, that you have to use a fair mix of being personal and telling people about yourself, but at the same time, okay, you can throw some advertising
Yeah,
in there
you
also.
can totally market via Twitter. I'm not telling anybody not to market via Twitter, but be open and honest about what you're doing, and don't only market. You wouldn't go into a cocktail party and just spam everybody by, hi, buy my thing, hi, buy this. You go up and you talk to them and you engage and you find out what they need, and then you give them recommendations. It needs to be looked at as word of mouth advertising. And in that sense, one thing that you are constantly saying is that Google is going to have to change a bit, because people are starting to go to Twitter or Facebook and do a search when they're looking for a product or when they need information, because they're getting it from the user content that exists in Twitter. If somebody wants to buy a Droid, they're going to go on Twitter and say, who has a Droid? Did you like it? And then you engage in a conversation. And if you have an affiliate link to a Droid, you say, hey, you can buy it here. But in the meantime, you're talking to people about products, and if 90% of your network says the Droid sucks, you're not going to buy one.
Actually, I would send them to Daniel's site and have them buy an iPhone.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
I think the other thing to remember is, Sean and Missy really do it right when it comes to sort of giving back and helping the community. And I think that you can't look at something like Twitter as a monetization effort. It's, an outreach to people. You're dealing with a community. You need to, give back to them. And I think you guys have done a great job in promoting yourselves, but also giving information, helpful resources, and then helping out charities and stuff. So I think they're a pretty good model to, if you got to figure out somebody to emulate, it's not a bad model. So I guess we're going to talk about a few other things, and then I think we're going to open it up for questions. But, we were just talking about recommendations, and you go on Twitter and you ask people what they think of the Droid. Well, now we've got some FTC regulations that have been in place since December 1st. And I'm sort of curious to hear what you guys feel about the disclosures that are required for people, how seriously you're taking them, and any recommendations that you would give to affiliate marketers about what they need to say about their links and disclosing that information.
You haven't said much yet.
My stance on that is I haven't really cared too much about. I'm not obviously an affiliate marketer, so I'm not really pushing any links on Twitter. So that would actually have to be a question for my counterpart. Maybe we can get him on a microphone later.
Yeah.
Vinny?
I'm not too worried about the FTC. I think they're gonna go after all the big guys, and as long as you're disclosing exactly what you do and you're doing it honestly, I don't think you'll have a problem.
And do each of you have a disclosure policy? Because
I-
I know that all of you do have individual sites, and Jason, you might not be an affiliate marketer, but you do have a website. Do you have a disclosure policy on it?
I do not.
And you're not worried about that?
I'm not worried about it.
I have 31 different disclosure policies,
Okay, why so many?
just to confuse the FTC.
What I've seen is, like, I work with a lot of bloggers, and what I've seen is they adapted very quickly, and at the end of a post, if they've been given a product to review, they just say at the end of the post that, you know, we were given this product for review, and it didn't alter our opinion, you know, this is still our opinion. And what we've seen on some affiliate marketers' sites is a site-wide disclosure that, you know, some of our links are affiliate links and we make money off of them, but, you know, I think what the FTC is going after mostly is testimonials and endorsements, and making sure that you're not, as an affiliate, you're not saying that, you know, Oprah Winfrey endorses the product that you're selling when, you know, she has no idea.
Right, well, I had a conversation with some guys from the FTC recently, and they're
Okay.
not going after sort of small people. Like, right now, they're not even going after anybody. They're in the education phase,
Right.
and they're not even in the enforcement phase. And contrary, just in case people don't know this, because there's been some information out there, there are no actual fines for violating this. I know that I saw in Wired and a few other places on the internet that there was going to be $11,000 per
You know,
instance.
I actually wrote about that on my blog when I read that. The morning that that broke, I wrote a blog entry about the $11,000 fines, and then later that day I had to go back and retract it because turns out not so much.
I think that if, as an affiliate, if you have a privacy policy that covers, you know, all the issues on your website, you know, there's certain advertisers and networks that require you to have a privacy policy already. You disclose as part of that privacy policy that you're passing a cookie to, you know, some links to other sites, you know, include a cookie that tracks to a sale.
Right.
You know, I mean, you don't have to put it, some people are thinking they have to put a note after every single link. And, you know, Google would just choke on that. You know, what are they going to do with all this duplicate content?
And the FTC is really going after exactly what you
They're
said.
the
They're
big
looking
guys.
for black and white cases of very egregious fraud.
Yeah,
You know,
they
they're
wanna
not
find the
looking for
people
a
that are
mom
lying.
and pop person who's, you know, promoting one thing because they got a free sample and saying something good about it.
Exactly. On my main blog, I've got a site-wide disclosure, and should anybody feel like sending me a free product, which nobody has, but if anybody ever does, then I would put in that post that I was given a free product specifically
review.
for that post. But in general, since that doesn't happen, I feel that a site-wide disclosure is just fine. Now, on my podcast website on geekdadsweekly.com, I don't have anything up there yet, I don't think. But that's
Because
just
you're not
that's an
selling
oversight
anything.
on my part, though, and I will have a site-wide disclosure there
I can
too.
lend you one of mine.
All right, good. I'll take one of yours. Yeah.
Okay, well, how about one more topic and then we'll let people ask us questions. And I guess what I would like to know is, this was a really huge event. I mean, I think this was the biggest affiliate summit ever, and Sean's out there, so maybe he can give me the real
it
number, but
4,000
it's
people,
over
or-
4,000.
Yeah.
4,125.
And that's a testimony to the quality of the speakers and the exhibitors, and because not only does everybody come back, but they bring all their friends and they recommend it to everybody that they talk to.
So
Word of mouth.
do each of you have some sort of like big thing that you're going to take away, whether it's you know, something that you heard in a session or an action item that you're going to go home and implement from a conversation you had, or what's your takeaway?
I'm going to start standing up at the dinner table whenever a lady gets up to go to the bathroom.
You guys were all
You
in
don't-
Peter's
you don't do that
session,
already?
weren't you?
Thanks,
you
thanks
don't
to
do that
Peter
already?
Shankman for that.
You don't
Yeah.
do that already?
No, I didn't do it. Come on.
Should I stand up and watch all you guys like jump?
Everybody in the room.
Absolutely.
Do you have a takeaway, Vinny?
Oh, what?
A takeaway from the show, something that stuck with you and resonated?
There's been a lot. I don't think I can summarize it in one little thing. I'm actually amazed at all the new people, what they came here to learn and stuff.
And this is your first full summit as an affiliate manager instead of as an affiliate. So
Totally
you have
different.
A whole different perspective, and you're seeing things from a whole different way.
Totally.
Besides chapped lips, I would say definitely relationships and trust, and it's nice meeting affiliates face to face and building those relationships that way instead of through IM and phone all the time. That's key for me.
Yeah, I know that I saw so many new faces and I felt a little bit overwhelmed at first, and I sort of thought like, wow, I don't know most of these people. And then, you know, the next day I kind of tried to turn it around and do the glasses half full and say, well, this is a huge opportunity for me to learn more from people, to meet more people, to find out, to gather some new information. So that once I decided to change that around, it was really beneficial. So who wants to step up to the mic? And you do have to come to the mic because I think they're recording this. And so who has a question for us about whatever it is you'd like to ask?
Industry or podcasting or anything?
Because I'll take away your beer privileges if you don't go.
Uh-oh. It's trouble.
¿Cómo está todo el mundo? Bien?
Okay.
What?
Okay, I'm Stephanie Lichtenstein, also known as Micro Steph. And I know you guys all have a podcast going on Geekcast. What do you guys think about a podcast in Spanish? And do you think that there's any sort of audience out there?
Absolutely.
David
Absolutely.
O'Shea,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'd love it if somebody could, you know, come and translate some of mine. You know, I mean, the
Oh, no, I
information
mean-
needs to.
I mean-
but yes, you should definitely
Yeah,
start
not like
one for the
translating,
Spanish.
but to start, like,
yeah, you should totally
maybe
start one in
introducing
Spanish.
people to affiliate marketing, but doing it in Spanish.
Yeah, because there are. It's interesting. I guess the takeaway that I would have is that that we have spoken to more than one potential merchant at this event that is interested in doing multi-language websites. And of course, Spanish is one of the first languages that they want to be able to go out in. So we need Spanish-speaking affiliates, and you know there needs to be a way for them to learn. And if you did a podcast in Spanish, I think it would be extremely well received.
Absolutely.
I mean, I guess if you did need to translate one into Spanish, I could do that too. But
Yeah, maybe we can experiment with that. I think that's an awesome
I think
idea.
I think a 30-minute or a 1-hour podcast about the industry in Spanish would be brilliant. I do.
Unfortunately, I don't speak another language.
that was
so-
actually David Ochoa's idea. and I
That's
think
right.
All right.
it's a good idea. So,
Good
muchas
idea.
gracias.
De nada.
Okay, who else has got a question?
Nailed it.
Come on,
All right.
don't be shy. Step up to the mic.
Someone over here had a question, and then, yeah.
All right.
I saw you.
Okay, here's my question. I know the term media is, you know, up in the air these days, but when you get media passes to conferences, for example, do you have to disclose that you were given a free pass to? I mean, I'm curious.
I think
'cause-
that's assumed because in the industry, in the print media, it's always assumed that you get a free pass. You know, media passes are quite well known, but it wouldn't hurt to put in your privacy policy or at the bottom of your post, you know, I had a complimentary pass, but that didn't color my judgment because I'm
Right.
still going to say whether it was a good conference or a bad
I think
conference.
transparency is the name of the game right now. So, like you said, it couldn't hurt. I don't know that it's required, but why not? What would be the downside to saying that you got
Yeah.
a free pass? So, go for it.
You
why
know,
not?
I got a free pass. It's my first time there, and this is my takeaway from it. You know, these are the positives, these are the negatives. I think journalism, people assume journalists get into things for free.
Yeah, I was just wondering. I mean, I know on your own individual blogs, but I write for like Huffington Post sometimes, and so when I cover conferences, I try to put them up on Huffington Post because obviously that gets more exposure for everyone. But I've always wondered, and I meant to ask them about it, but I'm always
That's a
curious
great
with
question.
you guys
It's a great
because
question.
the term media is now so much broader than it's ever been before.
Absolutely. And
Anyway.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've got like that compared to the Huffington Post. Yeah, I have no audience compared to the Huffington Post.
Right.
So I'm not the guy to ask, but my opinion is that it shouldn't really matter.
I don't think your readers are going to care that you have a free
Nah.
pass.
And I also think that, I mean, in general mainstream media, it's pretty much assumed that if
yeah.
you're writing
Yeah.
about something that
Sure.
you were let in as a media person. And I don't think that that typically colors your judgment whether you're going to say something
not at
good or
all.
bad.
I think more frequently what I see is if someone wrote, like occasionally you'll see a post written by someone and they'll say, and I bought my own pass.
Oh,
You know,
yeah, I
because
do see
that's the
Right.
opposite of
Right.
the norm.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Come on, we know you got some questions. We're up here to answer anything, whatever
You
you
guys all talked out.
throw
Come
something at
on.
us.
How many people out there have thought about starting a podcast? A handful? Okay.
What
How many
stopped
of you
you?
Why haven't
What
you?
stopped you?
Go to the microphone. Talk to
Why software?
Software's free.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I have readers on we have a professional social network for young professionals in 190 countries. They always ask for more. I'd love to do a podcast, but it's a lot of work. I love doing it, but I don't know that the ROI is there. And that's the biggest thing I carried around my little Adderall for months. I got great stuff. And, so much, there's actually a cost of, production involved in it too. Like, I can't sit at my computer for 3 hours a night and splice and dice video and editorial and all
dear.
that
Oh,
stuff.
Why are you
we
doing
don't do
that?
that either.
None of us do post-production like that. The
can't.
only time we do is like on a podcast that I haven't posted yet, is the end of the call, one of the speakers got cut off, so I need to just make a new ending. But when you do a podcast, just do it in a natural way and don't do splicing and dicing.
Now, there are some podcasts that you need to do some slicing and dicing. You need to have some high production values. You need to prep your show and things like that. My show's not like that. My show is, I use a Mac, so I've got GarageBand open, and I've got the beginning of the show is pre-recorded.
Yeah.
And that stays in the project. And then we hit record and we talk for an hour. We do a bit of prep, but not a ton. And then we stop recording. And anything that's glaring, I might go back and edit out, but generally I don't edit anything. And the end of the show is pre-recorded. So really, from beginning to end, we talk for an hour, so the whole process is maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, if I go back to listen to the show, and again, to record the show notes, to write
Right,
the
the
show.
longest thing for me is making the show notes.
Absolutely.
Last question, I'll
Sure.
let other
That's
people
okay.
talk. Do you think it's okay to do a podcast without consistency? Like,
Yes.
Yes.
because that's one of the
absolutely.
other things that freaks
Honey,
me out.
I have never been a regular podcaster. Like, I totally admire these guys for doing every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. That's
Yeah.
awesome. But I'll go in streaks where, like, I went 3 months without doing one, and then I recorded 10. And I put them out over the course of a week and a half.
I would just like to make a correction. We're talking every Monday at 7 a.m. my time.
Oh, I'm
We're
sorry.
doing
I
it.
thought you were Wednesday.
You need a
But
new contract.
anyway, I admire the people who can do it on a regular basis, and there will people who will say that you absolutely have to do it on a regular basis. But our podcasts are very popular, even though we do them when we do them. And, they're just like, they'll send me an email and say, when's the next one? And I'll say, okay, well, what do you want to hear about? So,
I think it's like the Howard Stern effect. They want to hear what I want to say.
And
they really do. They really do. Jason.
go ahead, please.
Hi, this is Charles from opensourcemarketer.com. I'm wondering, what do you use as a key metric to measure your listenership? Do you use downloaded files, or are you tracking?
Downloaded files, list stream. PodPress gives us all the data as to how many times it's been downloaded, how many times it was listened to streaming, and is there a third way?
I
don't know.
use-
I think
I
that's
use-
just
That's it,
download.
yeah.
Oh, feed. How many times it's been listened to from the
Right.
iTunes feed?
Right. I pay attention mainly to the downloads, and I use a service called PodTrack to track everything. And the great thing about PodTrack is that, like, for example, my show is hosted on geekcast.fm, but I also have it on geekdadsweekly.com, and I can use one URL, and it'll track both locations
Right.
through PodTrack. So I'm not having to take two different PodPress installations and combine the numbers later on in a spreadsheet or something.
Right.
And
So
the
it's all
other
in
thing,
one
in case
location.
you guys don't know, is geekcast.fm, where we all have podcasts. They host them for us, and it's just a great platform that Sean and Missy have, that you just have to name your podcast, say you want to sign up, tell them what it's about, and you can have a podcast.
As long as
Totally.
it's, it's attractive
Related,
to geeks.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, we can't put a coffee or tea podcast on there, no matter if we want to or not.
And,
Coffee
also,
ABCs.
Coffee ABCs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, what do you think about trying to measure reach, and things like that? How do you measure the effectiveness of a particular show?
Well, I can't say I'm doing that, because I think that Sean, who's behind you, is dealing with all that kind of stuff, and I'm just sort of in it for fun and sort of some personal branding, and you know, I'm not really that concerned about it, so, because I'm not really using it as a business tool. So for me, it's not that important, although, Sean, you might have some numbers, I don't know. Step up.
Come on up, Sean.
Yeah, I take a look at the number of listens and all the different ways with the downloads and everything, as well as looking at the traffic we get for the show notes and seeing where the clicks are going and everything. So I analyze that. And one thing that I definitely noticed a big uptick in is that I used to just have like for our affiliate thing show, I just called like affiliate thing episode 5. And I started making the title a couple of the keywords that were the things we discussed, because nobody was clicking through whenever I post about episode number 5. But if I have some kind of talking about the Nexus 1 or whatever, it's a lot more intriguing, and we got like probably 10 times the traction with any given episode when I start using keywords instead of the title of the show.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No, just when I do the blog post about it.
Yeah, and the other thing that we find is like when we come to a conference like this, or we're on different message boards, or people will post to Facebook. So we don't have a direct way of knowing our reach, but we know that people are listening. And I even have people who have contacted me saying, you know, I'm still on dial-up. I need to, you know, because I live in the mountains or whatever, and I would love to listen to your podcast, but I can't. And we've actually had people request some CDs from us, or actually I offered them to them when they said they couldn't get them. And we get a lot of positive feedback. And that lets us know that it's, you know, we need to do more. And now I know what more topics. I've spoken to many of you this week about being on our podcast. And we almost always use a guest. Sometimes we do them by ourselves. Sometimes there's 3 of us. And people, the feedback is just direct from the people. They come leave comments, or they, you know, send us a message.
I measure it by when I go to the bar and order something and somebody turns around and says, "Hey, I know your voice."
I know your voice, yep.
And I'm sorry, one last question. Sean
Yeah.
kind of brought this up. Just as an informal poll, do you guys concentrate very much on putting keywords in your titles for the actual file names?
Sure.
For me, I do 3 or 4 different podcasts on a weekly basis, and I don't really concentrate on keywords. I come from a journalism background, and I sort of I probably should, but I kind of let it bubble up organically, and I figure that the title is going to be pretty clear about what it is. But for our affiliate thing show, I think Sean does a really good job with the keywords.
I don't keyword them, but I put in who the guest is and what the topic is, and you know that generally creates some kind of keyword of its own.
I don't concentrate on my show titles as far as keyword density or anything like that, but I try to make the most relevant and clever title that I can, because as much as I rely on organic search to bring me some new listeners, I rely far more on word of mouth and social networking efforts as far as putting the show out there on Twitter and Facebook and things like that.
Don't you think
show notes?
Don't you think show notes
The
exactly
show
are
notes are
key?
more important.
Just
Show
sort
notes
of
are
a
way
summary
more-
of the show, any links that you might have, and
Right.
there ends up being a lot of keywords in all the show notes.
Absolutely.
Right, but they're not keyword stuff. They're just what you talk about,
Right.
you know, what you talked about, and that brings you the natural keywords.
Yep, totally.
David?
Hi, David from daviddamian.com. I've been thinking about doing podcasts in the past before. I said, what's stopping me? Maybe software or even hardware or time. But I'm going to take this and start something maybe with Stephanie in Spanish. But I do have a question about, do you all know what ID3 tagging is? I know Daniel does. It's when you download the MP3, and even though it's named file 1, when you import it into your media player, what are the tags that come out that stream?
Okay, first of all, I never recommend naming something file 1 or
No.
file blah, 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 blah. Always have your show title, if you can, put your show title in the file name.
Yes.
Makes it easier for people to look at in their folder, in their Finder windows, or in their windows, whatever you call them, windows.
Yeah.
But the ID3 tags is what you're talking about, where you have your show title and your episode number, or
Yeah, we've started doing
your
those.
composer, or
The
what's
year.
Yeah,
other ones?
composer. You put your
Genre.
artist, so
Artist.
under artist, I put down,
The
his
year,
name, my
yeah.
name. We have the year and the ID3 tags, and then the title of the file is the same as the title on ours. is the same as the title of the podcast.
That's good.
So
That's
when you find that on, when you download it, you know what the heck it is you downloaded.
My biggest pet peeve when exploring new podcasts is bringing it into iTunes and being faced with something that says track 3 as the song title with no artist or anything.
I don't know
Makes
what it is.
Absolutely
That's why you're not
impossible
allowed.
to find. Because I've got 20,000 songs in my iTunes library. It makes it impossible to find. So if you're out there and you want to produce a podcast, make sure you use your ID3 tags. It takes 2 seconds, really.
All right, thank you, Daniel. You took the
You got
words
it.
right out of my mouth.
You got it.
Anybody else with a question? Nothing?
Anybody? Come on.
Wow.
You guys just must be tired.
Oh, here we go.
All right, here we go.
Uh-oh, it's the
Uh-oh.
boss.
Here's the question.
How
How
do you
many
do these
beers will we
ID3
drink?
tags?
What?
What?
How do you do these tags?
Oh, in Audacity, I use Audacity. He
Yeah.
uses GarageBand, but
you can
I
actually, but you can actually do it in iTunes later on. Before you release your show, bring your MP3 file into iTunes, if you're using iTunes. Bring it into iTunes and edit the tags in there.
Oh,
Save
that's
the file.
way too much work.
Save the file, and it overwrites the file with the tags, and you can
Yeah.
release it then. If you've got nothing else. Audacity, I think Audacity does tags.
what we
Audacity
use,
does
yeah.
the
Audacity
tags.
does tags.
Yes,
Yeah.
when
Okay.
you import, all you have to do is open your file in Audacity, and then you tell it to export to MP3, and it pops up a window and it says, "Give me this information." So then we fill it in, and then you can save your tag template so you remember what the number was of your last podcast, and you can go from there. And it's extremely easy to do. And yeah, and Audacity is a free software for any of you that don't know that, and you can edit and you can
Right.
re-edit your meta
And for
tags.
everybody who's worried about the cost of this and everything, I record almost all of my podcasts on Skype, which is free. The quality is very good. You can use a product called Audacity that we were just talking about, free. There's a Pamela, which
Costs a little bit.
is, I think you have to pay like $29, and then there's a professional version that might be a little bit more. The encoder for Audacity is called Lame,
And
that's free. And there's a product, if you notice that you have differences in people's voices and you want to Levelator, which is also free.
We love
So
Levelator.
there's a world of free products. Basically, you need
A good
headset.
A $20
A good
headset.
headset.
A $29.99
headset.
headset.
And remember it.
He needs 2 headsets.
two.
Yes, I do.
We're
You
going to
need a-
staple it to his head from now
Yeah.
on.
Next
Okay,
year.
we've got
And-
another question.
Okay, so
Yes.
it's 3 questions,
Uh-oh.
and they're all related. One is, do you focus on putting album art in
I
your,
do.
your
Yes.
ID3 tags?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's as simple as a logo.
It's the logo for the show, yeah.
Okay, logo.
Yeah.
Sean, do we have album art for that affiliate thing?
Uh-oh.
It'll be the
I
Jets
think he
logo
has
by
a
the end of the day.
generic, I think he has a generic Geekcast logo. Maybe? He's shaking his
It's
head.
great for branding, it really is, because
Yeah.
whenever you listen to it on your iPod or on your iTunes or whatever you got, it shows. So
Oh, what?
why not? Oh, and Jason's got stickers, but we can't put these in the ID3 tags. What are you getting them out for?
Jason's
We
gonna
have
try
them.
putting the stickers into people's CD
There you go.
players.
We have them online too.
Okay,
And I guess
go
the-
ahead.
I guess the second part of that, it has 2 parts to it, which makes up the 3 questions, is do you publish multiple feeds? So like, do you have an MP3 feed and then maybe an enhanced feed for just strictly for iPods and things like that?
I actually do have 2 feeds. One is the full site feed, and one is just the podcast feed. And you can enable that in, I think, PodPress and
He's
the
saying do
one
you
that
have
I'm
two,
using.
two
What?
different versions.
Like
so
an
like
AAC version and an
Yeah,
MP3
yeah,
version.
absolutely.
I considered that, but I decided that it was, well, for one thing, too much work to record to different formats. And I listen a lot to the This Week in Tech, the TWIT podcasts, and Leo Laporte was doing that for a while and stopped. And I figure, you know what, this guy's been doing podcasting forever. If he's not doing 2 versions, I'm not going to do 2 versions until somebody gives me a reason to.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to
So-
tell you, Leo has an entire studio in
I
his
know.
house.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
so
yeah.
jealous,
But he's
I
different.
know.
That's different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Third question, go for it.
Well, so the idea of putting in bookmarks into the enhanced feed, or
Right.
the enhanced show, but I think you already answered the fact that you don't do that.
Yeah.
so-
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't do that.
Okay.
Most of us have like their shows are an hour long. Our shows try to be like 20 minutes to a half an hour, so you don't really need to fast forward to a bookmark.
Unless I start rambling.
Well, then I just tell you to stop.
Right.
Anything else from anybody out there? Oh,
here we go.
here we go.
Hi there. I've got two questions. Do you have any stats on how the podcasts are actually consumed, meaning whether they're streamed on the site or
Yes.
downloaded
Streamed.
by iTunes? How many people download them directly to their mobile devices, that kind of stuff?
Yes, we get all three of those statistics from the PodPress software that's on both on Geekcast and on other sites that we post them on. So it's usually about, if you're asking about the different, usually the most are through the feed, and then second would be the downloads, and then the fewest are the ones that are just streaming it live.
I actually see not quite the opposite of that, but I see more people streaming, a combination of streaming and downloading through Geekcast and through the Geek Dad's website as well.
Maybe because ours is
they-
a little bit older than yours.
That could be. That
That's,
could be. Yeah.
People tell me that they listen to ours while ours are shorter.
Yeah.
So they put theirs on their MP3 players while they're doing their morning jog or their treadmill or whatever. So an hour long, you're more going to sit
Right.
there and push play while you're doing your work at your computer, not necessarily take it on a run.
Okay, and if you say that a lot of people actually not consuming their podcasts while they're on the computer, what is the value of lengthy show notes then?
In each of our, the value of the show notes is to get the people to the site to be able to talk to us about the show, so via spiders, and also to give the people who listen to the podcast a way to find the links without having to go back and listen to it again. And at the end of each show, we say, if you got this on iTunes, go back to affiliateabcs.com to see the show notes and to request, make a request for a future topic. And that's,
It also means it's being indexed, so when people do a search
Right.
for a particular topic,
Right.
you're coming up in the search page.
We actually just started a wiki for our show notes, which I think is going to work out really well.
that'd be an interesting case study to watch.
It'll be a great case study to see if we can see if the community will help us generate the show notes on a weekly basis. Should be fun.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Those are great questions.
Anybody else? Okay,
And
well,
the
I guess
room
the
goes
the
silent.
bars. Oh no,
Oh,
we got
here we
somebody.
go.
Hey, all right, here we go.
Sorry, I can ask questions all day long.
Yeah, sure.
What method do you use to try to solicit listener interaction so that you can roll them back into the show, or do you try it all?
The guests will Twitter. We use social media. We use our Twitter accounts. Our guests will use their Twitter accounts. Again, we embed in the show.
They'll normally ask questions to us through email, and we'll end up with another subject out of it, or maybe even
Yeah.
invite them on the show.
Well,
You know,
the
we
other thing is
publish-
that when you go through geekcast.fm, when a new show goes up, they'll Twitter to all their their followers as well. So that helps.
I'm guessing the topic's more, question's more pointed to the fact of, do you try to bring the voice of the listener into the show? Like,
Yes.
or actually
Oh,
play
absolutely.
clips from them so that, hey,
Oh,
I was
no.
played on this show. And
I haven't tried
tell
that,
each
but that's
other.
an
Jay does
interesting
that.
idea.
Jay
Jay Berkowitz
Berkowitz
does that on his
Right,
show.
Jay does
Right,
that.
right.
He's got a
Yeah.
phone number you can call up and.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't do that on the affiliate
We invite our listeners to be on our podcast. So if you have a topic you want covered that you want to discuss with us, our podcast is a little different. Well, his is too, but our podcast is a discussion style rather than an interview style, or rather than an individual person just sitting there talking. So we highly encourage people to come to us with an idea for a podcast, and we will just sit down and do it. So the voice of our listener is actually in every one of our podcasts. If not, physically, it's there because we took their questions.
And do any of you run a forum in parallel with that? I know you've got the social media piece, but do you
Not
run
right
the
now,
forum?
but I will. That's part of my plans for the upcoming months. We just rebranded ourselves. Does somebody need a beer?
Yeah.
We just rebranded ourselves from Geek Dads at Home to Geek Dads Weekly, and with that comes a new website and a new domain, things like that. And a forum is going to be a part of that in a few months once we start getting our stuff together. So.
And we have a forum for our podcasts on abestweb.com. So if you went to abestweb.com/affiliateabcs, you would see threads about our podcasts and the show, a version of the show notes, and people discussing what they want to hear and what they want to see.
We also created a Facebook fan page, so that's another place to put a link
Yep.
out to your podcast
Absolutely.
and create a fan base within the Facebook community.
And you mentioned earlier about listeners being at their computer or not being at their computer. Do you include a player on every show, or is there, you have like a centralized player for the podcast?
I use WordPress,
Yeah, they're all embedded.
as does Geekcast.
Right.
Yeah.
And each entry has a player for the specific episode.
The ones that I post on the forum, it's just a download link, so that might be a reason why we have a high number of downloads as opposed to streaming. But the ones that are on our websites they all have players.
Oh, here we go.
Here
Come
we
on,
go.
David.
Hi, David again. I have a question. How long do you wait to try and get sponsorship? And once you do try to get sponsorship, how do you approach like Things from Another World to, put your link
They're one of
on
mine.
their site?
Actually, I think all three of us do it differently. So why don't you guys go first, and then I'll talk about how we do it.
Well, I'm not looking for sponsors. I'm, like Lisa, we're doing personal branding, we're doing teaching. I'm not trying to sell you anything. If there's something like in our Geekcast show notes, in the podcast we did about podcasting, we did do an Amazon link to the headset that we use. But in general, we aren't trying to do a sponsored podcast. We are our own sponsor.
Yeah, we're kind of like the same thing. We're not looking to sponsor anything. It's we want to provide information as far as from being in the affiliate community, giving it from both sides. That's why it's called Both Sides of the Tracks. So what an affiliate wants to see from a merchant or a network, and what a network likes to see from an affiliate. So
That's not to say that you shouldn't. It's just, and in answer to your question, I would say that you probably want to build some content first and have some, once you can show a merchant or, a company that you have a listenership that their product would appeal to, then you can ask for a sponsorship. But I would actually use affiliate links to be your sponsorship.
We
In
were,
your show notes, yes.
Absolutely. We were 8 months or 10 months into the show and decided to try doing a bit of monetization. So at the beginning of every show now, we say, Geek Dads Weekly is brought to you by Things from Another World, which is one of the ones we do. And we give a coupon code and things like that. We usually do 2 sponsors at the beginning and then 1 sponsor, if we remember to do it, at the 30-minute mark. If we don't just ramble on and just completely
So that's why you
blow
can't
past
get
it.
paid sponsors, because he won't remember to
Exactly.
run your ad.
Well, our listenership is not so great that I feel that we should be able to approach advertisers and say, give me money, and we'll see what happens, So I have a pure affiliate relationship with advertisers that we work with. So I say go to tfaw.com/geekdads, and that'll bounce through ShareSale and back to TFAW. And that works well for us.
And you can also make your own redirect links and not
Absolutely.
And
Not
I
rely
was
on
going to
the
say for the affiliate thing with Sean and I think that we like to sort of give people our opinion on things, and we don't really want to be hampered by people either thinking that we're accepting money from somebody as a
Right.
sponsor, or that we were a little easy on somebody because they sponsor the program. So I think
Sure.
we just sort of like to be able to say what we want, and we're less encumbered when we don't take money from people.
In our case, because we're not, let's put it this way: if I was going to do a segment about one of the merchants, then I absolutely would not do any kind of sponsorship or advertising for the merchant, because that could be seen as a conflict of interest. But when I do an advertisement for Things from Another World or Signing Time or any of the others, we rarely, well, we never do any kind of a segment based around them. So since I don't think there's any kind of possibility of a conflict of interest there, I don't have a problem doing that.
Right, and one of the things that we do with Affiliate ABCs is we do some merchant spotlights to help an affiliate learn how to promote a certain type of product or promote a certain merchant. And we don't only do the ones that we manage ourselves. We'll talk to any OPM or any merchant to have them come and do a spotlight, because we're educating the entire community and we're not just focusing on, ourselves, because we don't want to look biased. And even though we do love our own merchants, and, I haven't done a merchant spotlight on each one of our merchants yet. We did one on Legacy Learning that'll be going up probably next week. And, Matt McWilliams is their AM. And, we just, like Lisa, we try to, we're not biased. We just want to help people learn.
Right. See, our show is not about helping people learn. So
your show is about being a dad, so
Exactly.
you have products that you come up with
Right.
that you can talk about in context of being a dad.
Exactly.
And
It's about knowing your audience.
Right. You get your sponsorship so that it's targeted to your audience. Otherwise, it's a waste of everybody's time.
Right. And speaking of knowing your audience, surveys. We do surveys asking for feedback on the show, what you want to hear about, where you heard about us, and things like that. It's invaluable data. So.
Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you very much for coming, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
We should have David on.